Hello and welcome to our sew along to make our workshop bag a really useful size to keep your projects in and all your tools in all the pockets outside. So we're going to show you the cutting. So I'm using a plain grey and a flowered fabric. This is going to be my pockets and this is going to be the bag body, which also the bag body folds into the lining as well, and the handles. So for the bag body, I've lined up my fabric on my mat on the 0 line, and I'm going to cut on the 14.5. And now I'm going to cut my 2 handle strips, and they need to be 2 3/4 inches wide. That's 1. Two. So I'm now going to take my fabric with the folded side, and I'm going to leave that just over the 0 marker on my mat, and I'm then going to cut on the 20.5 line, and then I'm going to trim up on the 0 line. And that gives me my 2 bag body pieces, 14.5 by 20.5. And now I'm going to do my pockets in exactly the same way. I'm going to line up my edge with the 0. And I'm going to cut up the 14.5 line. Turn it round, this time I'm going to trim on the 16.5 inch line. So that gives me my pocket fabric of 14.5 by 16.5. You also need to cut 2 pieces of a medium weight interfacing. This is an iron-on interfacing, and they are 8.25 by 14.5. And your wadding needs to be 14.5 by 10.5. I'm using a wadding called Thermolan. It's a very lightweight wadding, but it's quite a dense wadding, so it's really good for bags because it gives them sturdiness to stand up. This is the wadding that's been supplied in all the kits. And you also need to cut 2 1-inch strips for your handles. To make the handles, you need to trim your fabric already cut to 34.5 inches. I've got my folded edge right on the 0 line here, my selvage edge up here, and I cut on the 17.25 line. So now we've got two straps ready to sew. We're going to sew the handle strap, so you need to take the strap and fold it right sides together, and then we're going to sew 1/4 inch along the long edge. So once you've sewn down the long side, you need to turn it inside out, and then you need to press it so that the seam is in the middle of one side all the way along, and this will become the back of your handle. And then you just need to thread your wadding through the handle strip. I'm using a clover tool, but you can just use a safety pin. So just safety pin it onto the edge of the wadding, and then you can feel the safety pin going through. Just make sure that your wadding stays flat and doesn't get twisted in the handle. Once you've got the wadding through, it's quite a good idea just to give it another good press. It does get a little bit creased. Just need to trim off the excess wadding from your handles. And now we're going to top stitch just part of the handle. Measure in from each edge 9 inches and do a mark straight across. And repeat for the other end. So I've got my mark across. What we're going to do is we're going to top stitch between those marks on each edge. And what you must do is have a nice long thread on your machine, so that we can sew that in when we sew onto the bag. It's a good idea to lengthen your stitch to about, I normally do about 3, just gives a better look to the top stitching. I'm doing it about an eighth of an inch from the edge. When you approach the mark, you want to stop on the mark and then cut off a nice length of thread. And then repeat for the other side. So start on the mark, about an eighth of an inch in, and sew down to the remaining mark. And again, cut off some nice long threads to sew in. So that's one handle done, and you just need to repeat that for the other handle. To make the pockets now, so you take a pocket piece, you're going to have the 14.5 measurement going along, and you're going to fold it in half, wrong sides together, and then just press that fold line. Then you're going to open it up. Take one of your interfacing pieces. Now with the iron on, this one's got the shiny side. So you put the shiny side down. So you're matching all the raw edges, and then just give that a press. Just be careful you've got the right side down, else it will muck up your iron. and then refold back over, and then you're going to top stitch the folded edge. I'm just going to do a straight stitch, but you can do a decorative stitch if you'd prefer. Again, I've lengthened my stitch to a 3. So that's the pocket done, and you just need to repeat for your other pocket. With your bag body piece, again, you've got your 14.5 measurement this way. You're going to take it down, fold it in half, wrong sides together, and press that fold again, like the pocket. Then open it up, and I use a 505 spray. Just give it a little spray under the fold line, and then take your wadding piece, line it up on the fold line and with all raw edges. This Thermolan wadding is quite nice because it actually grabs the fabric. So if you don't want to use a spray, just line up your fabric and it will grab it and keep it there. So turn it over so the right side is upwards. You're going to take a pocket and match the side seams and the bottom edge, and then just pin in place, stop the pocket from moving. We're going to add the handles on now. You need to measure 4¼ inches in from the side edge, and then take your handle and place it so the seam is down onto your pocket. I'm going to use my glue pen again just to keep that in place. And then put your ruler the other side for 4¼ . Bring your handle round, make sure you haven't got a twist in it and that the seam is still facing down onto your pocket. And then run a bit of glue down just to keep it in place. You can pin it if you like, but it does slightly screw it up a bit, so this keeps it nice and flat with the glue. Now you're going to top stitch the handle onto the bag, which creates the pockets. Remember that mark we drew across the handle, so you're going to sew from the bottom edge up to the mark. Make sure that your stitch joins up with your previous top stitching. Go straight across your mark and then back down to the bottom edge, and then repeat for the other side. Just take it nice and steady. Keep those threads, those long threads that you had before top stitching, just keep them out the way. And once you get to the mark, just sew straight across. And meet up with your stitching on the other side. And then just go back down the other side of the handle. Be careful when you get to your pocket that stays nice and flat. So once you've sewn that, you need to take these long edges and sew them through to the back and just tie them off to secure. Repeat for your other handle side, and then do exactly the same for the other side of the bag. We're then going to draw a 2-inch line from the bottom edge of your bag all the way along. And then we're going to sew it along, and this will stop anything in your pockets getting stuck in the bottom of the bag underneath that you can't reach. So I've marked a line. And then just sew straight stitch along. Take it slowly because you're going through quite a few layers. And then exactly the same on the second bag side. So now you need to take your bag sides and place them right sides together. And you're going to match up the handles, straps at the bottom, and pin or clip. Quite a few layers here, so it's important to get the position right and then secure. So you can open it up and just double check that your handles are in line with each other. You then need to check the side pockets are level. And we are going to sew all the way around, but we're going to leave a gap in the lining about 4 inches wide in the middle of the end seam. So you can pin all the way around just to keep the layers together. Make sure your wadding is level as well. And then sew all the way around using a little bit larger seam than 1/4 inch, just to make sure you catch all the layers in. And what I tend to do is, when I'm doing a bag like this, I'll just sew off the end and then threads and then start again from the edge. Just makes the seam quite accurate rather than trying to guess the slightly over than 1/4 inch seam. So when you get to the wadding, just take it slowly because you're going to hit layers. You could use your walking foot for this. So off the end and then start again. And again off the edge. Keep going round. As you're coming along the lining edge, the short edge, just remember to leave a gap. Now sewn all the way around, we're going to make the bucket bottom. So you want to pinch the 2 layers apart and you're going to match the side seam here with the bottom seam here. You just need to take your time matching the seams together. You can sort of feel them go together. And you can pop a pin in. Have a look through the gap to see that they line up across that seam there. And then you're going to mark off two inches from the tip of the triangle up here there, and you're going to draw a line all the way across. And that will be your sewing line. and then you're just going to sew straight across that line. And then you're just going to cut off the excess. So leave, just eyeball 1/4 of an inch and just cut off your excess. It's a bit scary, but it's fine. You're going to repeat that for all 4 corners. Sewn all our 4 corners and trimmed off all the excess. We now need to turn it right sides out through the hole in the lining. So just gently pull it through. Start with the lining and then the bag will follow. And gently poke out the corners. And now you need to slip stitch the gap in the lining. You can either do this by hand or machine. Once you've done that, push the lining into the bag. Just make sure the edge of the wadding is right on the fold of the lining going down in the bag. And now we're going to top stitch around the top of the bag to keep the lining in place and to keep the wadding in place. So I'm just going to remove I normally start on a side seam and then you can sew your threads in when you're finished. And again, increase your stitch length to about 3.5, just so that it doesn't get too small and tight. You need to sew about 2 inches at a time and then reposition the bag because you need to keep turning it around your arm of your sewing machine. So just, if you've sewn a bit, just turn it, reposition it. You need to move the handles out of the way and just continue round. It's quite important if you have the needle down position, so that when you start sewing again the needle doesn't jump to another position and you've got a wonky line of stitching. And when you approach the side seam you started, just go over the first stitch that you stitched and then pull long threads so you can sew them in. So just take those threads and sew them in to secure. And that is your little workshop bag. Well, thank you for joining us with this sew along to make this little workshop bag. We hope you've enjoyed it. This time we're going to have a giveaway where you can win this bag. All you need to do is to like our page, share this post and like this post, and we'll choose a winner at random on Monday the 22nd of June. See you next time.